Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and I am still very not over the fact that Sephiroth is going to be appearing in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. And funnily enough, we are actually going to be talking about Sephiroth, seeing as his banner is going to be coming out pretty much around the same time as his showcase for Smash Bros. Does. So there's a lot of hype for Sephiroth at the moment across the world. But is the hype there for him in Opera Omnia as well? If you'd like to know more about him, what he gets out of his LD and his burst, as well as the extremely challenging Lufenia that's going to come along with him, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check out the links in the description box below for all my social media. On Twitch this week I will be covering, obviously, Sephiroth's Lufenia mission when it arrives, and I'm going to be starting to stream Smash Bros. Whether you guys like it or not at this point. I honestly cannot contain myself. I squealed when I saw Sephiroth appear on the screen for the Game Awards trailer for Smash Bros. I literally could not contain myself. So if that's something you guys are interested in, then definitely come and find me on Twitch. On Patreon, obviously I always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, so I can give my thanks to each and every one of you individually. And today that person is going to be The Judge. So thank you very much for joining me on Patreon. His title card has Genesis in it, which is a character I know a lot of people are wanting within Opera Omnia. Who knows, it could happen. Obviously don't forget to check out all of the websites associated with Opera Omnia around me and in the description box below, and of course all of the other content creators out there besides myself. So first things first, let's take a look at Sephiroth on the banner, as well as obviously his banner mates and everything that comes along with him. So one of the banners will contain Sephiroth with just his LD and his burst, and will give you Galoof, Jekt and Ignis EXs, whereas the other one will also contain Sephiroth's EX and will also contain Saz and Snow EX. Now personally, I'm not touching the Saz and Snow banner regardless, because both of these two trolled me really hard in the past, like 400 tickets plus trolled, and I know for a fact if I were to pull on Sephiroth and pull on this banner, they would appear before anything else. But if you are looking for a banner to pull for Sephiroth on, I would recommend this one, as Saz is the most useful character among these guys for his Lufenia mission. The other thing I did want to quickly point out before we go into the character himself is that we've been told about a gift that's going to be coming along to celebrate the fact that Sephiroth is coming to Smash Bros. Within Opera Omnia, and people have kind of gone off the rails a little bit with regards to what this might be, whether it be an early rework for him or free bursts or all sorts of things, and I think that people need to calm down a little bit. Honestly, if they gave him his rework early, it would completely break him. It literally doubles his damage output and it does crazy things for him. If it did, then this video is going to end up being very different, and honestly the answer is yes, you should pull for him, but I don't see it happening personally. What I expect to happen is we'll either get another global exclusive costume for him, and if it's like Safer Sephiroth from NT, then that would be really cool, or even just some stickers and some gems and things like that to help pick him up. So honestly, if it does end up being something spectacular, great. I just wouldn't expect it to be. Anyways, going into Sephiroth and what he gets out of these banners, without the rework, he is still just the same damage dealer he's always been, with Fervent Blow being a double HP dump Brave HP attack that's single target. All of his skills are currently single target, or like his main skills are currently single target, and then Octaslash being a 7-hit Bravery single target HP attack that follows up, and then it's basically his main draw is his Genova buff, which is a like speed down aura for the enemies as long as he keeps the stacks of this up. And it does actually work quite well, and it kind of makes up for the fact that Sephiroth himself is relatively slow. Now, his EX did change things a little bit by giving him a much better sense of longevity by giving him A, 100% AoE damage EX attack in Black Materia, and B, the fact that it stops you from consuming a skill use on the turn following him using it, and it also gives him Brave Regen, which helps his damage output. And then with his EX Plus, he got an HP Plus, which was actually pretty solid, which was 3-hit Brave HP, which was better than anything that really anyone had at the time. He starts with 3 levels of Genova, which means he can use Fervent Blow instead of Octaslash in order to kind of get to the full stacks of that buff quicker. And he also starts with 2 levels of Reunion, which is his Brave Regen buff that he gets from his EX, so he only takes 1 use of his EX to get to max stacks of that as well. And he also he just gets nice little attack boosts all over the place. It's still a decent attack. It's nothing crazy in this day and age, but it's decent enough. Now his LD His LD is a little bit disappointing, honestly. Like, as it is, it does get significantly better when he does get his rework in his LD board, but as things stand, it's actually kind of meh. It's a Brave HP attack that hits twice, so it's a double HP dump, and it's AoE, but it's split damage, which again, not fantastic. And it inflicts a framed debuff on the enemies, which increases the amount of bravery damage that they take and also gives them a bravery poison. It does give him a nicer HP+. It gives him HP++, which is a 4-hit Brave HP attack, which is quite good for this day and age. But that's kind of it. Like, that's all it actually does. It's very, very, like, it doesn't have any pizzazz. I mean, this is Sephiroth we're talking about here. This is one of the, like, most iconic characters in the entirety of Final Fantasy. He got into Smash Bros, for Christ's sake. And this is all his LD gives him? Really? Like, it's nice. Like, he only gets 3 uses of it as well, which for an attack that does that little, it doesn't seem like it's really worth only having 3 uses. But, the cellular erosion debuff does last for 8 turns, and it is actually very handy for his Lufenia mission. But I think that, like, most people who are pulling for Sephiroth are either pulling for him out of fandom, or they're pulling for him to save themselves having to pull for him when his rework comes along. But his burst I actually really like. Like, his burst has a very unique effect, and the fact that Sephiroth is quite slow actually works to his advantage in this particular case. So, obviously you get a free skill use out of everything he does, which is just going to be damage, let's be honest. Like, everything he does currently is just damage. But he gets a Brave HP attack, so it's a group-based burst attack, but what you get from his burst effect is at the end of every turn, whether it be one of your characters or one of theirs, all enemies' bravery gets set to 1. Now you pair this up with a character like Lightning or Noctis that can take many turns over and over and over again. You're just breaking the enemies over and over and over again, and you're just delaying them into oblivion. And then obviously this only works for 3 turns, but it only works for 3 of Sephiroth's turns. And if Sephiroth is relatively slow, that actually can work to your advantage. And, you know, I think that going forward, it is actually a very interesting, if not super busted, sort of burst effect to go along with the rest of his lackluster kit. And the burst effect on its own is probably not reason enough for you to go pitying Sephiroth alongside all of his kit, given that it's actually not that strong right now. But I think that having it in your back pocket is actually kind of nice. And I think people who are like fans of Sephiroth, myself included, who will actually find ways to use this in very unique and interesting ways. But by and large, until he gets his rework, I mean, God forbid he does get it early, like I said, this video changes very dramatically, it's just not really worth the hassle. Artifact-wise, Sephiroth is fairly plain and obvious. His attack 108 and his C50 that buffs all of his offensive stats. You could go for like max bravery, initial bravery to help his regens and stuff. But honestly, just attack is probably where you want to go. He does actually have a call ability as well, and it's actually not half bad. Like, call abilities tend not to do all that much damage, but Sephiroth's Octaslash is still a 7-hit Brave HP attack that lowers speed, like, quite nice for 6 turns after use, and it's got a good Brave Overflow, it raises his bravery before you do it. If you want something that's just going to be raw damage, and you don't really have any other use for a call ability, it's not a bad one to have. And then finally, with regards to his high armor, it's a power-based armor, so it increases his damage by 15%. It's good if you're going to use Sephiroth a lot, but the chances are, at least for now, you're probably not going to use Sephiroth all that much. You're probably better off waiting and like grabbing Cloud when he comes around, or if you've already got Lightning. If you already have Lightning, you don't really need Sephiroth, period, at this point in time. But if you're going to use Sephiroth a lot and you're going to fan over him, chances are you're probably not going to listen to me and you're going to buy this anyway. But when, like, far in the future, like, it's not actually been that long since he's had this in JP, but he gets a rework at an LD board that changes things rather dramatically. So his C55, he gets splash damage on Fervent Blow on the first attack, and it increases the hit count of it. On Octaslash, he gets 2 more uses of it, and it literally doubles in damage, which is pretty crazy because you get 14 hits out of it. And then the Scintilla Extend, or the LD board for it, It gives him another buff called Bringer of Despair, which increases his attack, his initial bravery, his max bravery, his recovered bravery, his max brave overflow, and the bravery he gains from any attacks that he does up to 30%, and increases all HP damage he does by 10%. And it also turns the debuff cellular, or his LD debuff, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but his LD debuff becomes Golden Frame, which means it can't be dispelled by anything. And it also just hits significantly harder as well. So basically everything he does literally doubles in potency. So if you wanted to, you could try and get Sephiroth now to save yourself having to get him when he comes back around alongside Warrior of Light's LD boards and Paladin Cecil's LD boards. But given that those two characters are people that a lot of people either have pulled for or will pull for in the future, getting him now means you can ignore that banner entirely. So now let's talk about the Lufenia mission that's going to be coming along with Sephiroth. Now this one is difficult. Now this is a very challenging Lufenia mission that a lot of players have been dreading. Oh, like it's right smack bang in the middle of the trifecta of Reno, Sephiroth, and Kieran, and it's arguably the hardest Lufenia mission in the game to date because of when it arrives, who's synergy for it, and the fact that the enemies are just a pain in the backside. Basically, this is a damage race. Like, you need high damage to deal with this fight. Basically, it's the imps from Prompto's event, if you remember them, and what they tend to do is buff. You have one that's attacking your party and the other that's supporting them, and they'll swap roles over the course of time. Well, when they're one supporting the other one, they get a framed 50% defense boost, and they get a shield that also like ranges from 60 to 70,000 bravery, and you're going to have to take this down quickly because the Lufenia orb can't be dispelled in any way. There is nothing you can do about it. You just have to deal the damage in as fast a time as possible. It's there for 30 turns at the start of the fight, and it disappears again when you get them under 80% health. And then it appears again when they get under 50% health for 35 turns, and then they're there until you kill them. And from this point onwards, Lufenia orbs, there's nothing you can do about them. If that orb goes off, you die. Plain and simple. There's no edge cheesing, there's no gladio cheesing, there's no way around it. You just have to kill them or get rid of the orb, or in whichever way it takes, in order to survive. If it goes off, you're dead. That's the end of it. So basically, when the enemies switch backwards and forwards, they give themselves this bravery shield and this like massive defense boost. So you need to kind of be able to deal with the shields as quickly as possible in order to get them under that 80% damage threshold, so that you can then start slowing down a little bit, being methodical with your damage, etc., and making sure that they don't sort of go out of hand. Now, once they've gotten rid of the orb the first time around, so after 80% health, they get rid of all debuffs that they have, even if only one of them has taken it. Then basically they get another aura that they use periodically that reduces any bravery damage that they take to 1. And if they have this aura, they're going to use an AoE 100% damage, or they're going to use an AoE attack that hurts a lot. So you've got to allow, but it's the only way for the aura to go away. So you have to let them get it, otherwise you're just never going to be able to deal them damage. Because of this, you're going to need to bring your best, fully loaded, perfectly balanced team in order to deal with this. If you have Lightning, you're bringing her. Straight up. If you have Lightning's Burst, she is the best damage dealer you could bring along. Obviously, if you have Sephiroth and his LDN Burst, he is obviously a very strong option for this as well, because he does do significant amounts of AoE and single target damage, and he also has a couple of frame debuffs. He slows them down a bit and makes them a bit more manageable. You're going to need somebody along with you that's going to make it so that you're more easily able to survive. So whether that be Gladiolus or Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light's actually very good for this fight as well, although if you have a burst, you're probably going to want to bring an offensive character one rather than his. Or even a character like Reno. Like I said in my should you pull video for Reno, that he would be useful for all three of the kind of trifecta of nasty Lufenias. His pyramid debuff does actually help a lot here by just warding off those nasty attacks and making sure that you're more easily able to survive. Similarly, you could go for a third character that is there to enhance your damage. Now, Saz is a synergy character on this banner that will help you quite a lot because his attack and speed up means that you can deal the damage at a significantly higher rate. And then you've got Kurosame, who basically just increases any damage you deal in the first place. So between those characters, you've got a large amount of scope in order to be able to deal that damage as quickly as possible. But you're also going to need to be careful how you bring their health down. Now, I'm actually going to take this piece of advice from Tonberry Troop's infographic here directly, because I think they explain it better than I could. So the way that they go about it is to bring the attack-oriented enemy, which is basically the one that's targeting your party, down to 80% HP first, so that their orb is gone, and then you want to make sure that the other one isn't too far behind, so that the Lufenia orb is gone. Then you want to bring the support-oriented enemy to around 50% HP before the orb goes off again, wait for them to swap roles, and then bring the other one down. And then after you hit that 50% HP, that is when you're going to be popping your friend unit, your summon, your burst, anything to get as much damage as physically possible. And one thing I will say is that an Mid-Italian friend here is absolutely perfect, because if you can get 6 framed debuffs on the enemies, and this is easily doable through Kurosame, Sephiroth, and a Mid-Italian, or even Warrior of Light because you've got access to Lock as well, then bringing in a Mid-Italian friend and like filling up the rest of their slots with framed debuffs that they can't get rid of means that they can't put the shield and the 50% defense framed buffs on. So that way, you're actually going to be able to get around it in a much more manageable fashion. So basically, your best damage dealer, your best team, take all the advice that you can see from both myself, other content creators, Tonberry Troop and Rem, like I always put in my videos as well. Just take everything that you've learned about the game so far and apply it. And while this Lufenia is difficult, it's not impossible. So don't panic, be cool, and you'll get through it fine. So now for the big question when it comes to Sephiroth, should you pull on him? Now, largely, on a faceless, it's not Sephiroth, fan side aside, probably not. Like, there are better damage dealers than Sephiroth, one of which is currently available in Lightning. So unless you really dislike Lightning, then you could go for Sephiroth. But by and large, outside of synergy, Lightning is going to do you better than Sephiroth will for the most part. If you want to save yourself, however, from having to pull for him when his very strong rework comes around, sort of late next summertime, then you could try and get it now. You know, if you don't have Warrior of Light, if you wanted to like pick up Warrior of Light and Sephiroth together when the returning banner came about, or you don't already have Warrior of Light, etc., then you could wait for him then. But by and large, the only reason you'd really want to pull this banner is so that you didn't have to get him later. He's accompanied, like I said, by Warrior of Light and Paladin Cecil. And Paladin Cecil is a character that 90% of players are probably going to pull for the first time he comes around. So there's that warning of dupes and stuff like that if you're just going for him. And pulling him now means that you don't have to get him later. And honestly, I think it's difficult for a lot of people to contain the hype. Like, I've done a full 180 on this banner purely because of the Smash Bros announcement, and I know that's a really bad reason, but I want him. I like it a lot. I think it's really cool, and I know it's probably not a very good idea for me to pull for him based on that alone, but I'm gonna find it a struggle to resist. He's not the best damage dealer in the world, which is the role he's designed to do as well. And it's kind of sad that like a character as iconic as Sephiroth doesn't get enough of a boost with his LD and burst. Like, I mean, his burst is really cool, but his LD is a bit and his kit doesn't get anything special for quite some time. But he's Sephiroth. It's hard to turn him down. So now, of course, it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, can let your opinions be known about any particular banner and just whether you would or wouldn't pull on it. So asking my patrons this time around about Sephiroth. Now, I think a lot of people are kind of in a similar boat to me, where they know it's a sensible thing to skip on Sephiroth, but because of who he is, it's quite a hard character to skip. Basically, it's the same problem that Reno had on the last banner. Now, 58% of people said yes, they were going to use tickets on this banner. 27% said that no, they were not going to put on this banner at all, and 15% of people said yes, they were going to use gems on this banner. Now, if I personally spend on this banner, it will only be tickets, and I will probably just go for the LD. And one thing I will mention as well is that if you were to go for Rude, which is a character that many people will go for based on how strong he is, then you got Sephiroth's burst going for that. You could always skip this banner for now and then come back to it if Rude is nice to you, or you get the burst while going through and you still have a load of resources left. There is a way to go around it that way as well. Now, Pale Raider here says, got gems all warmed up and ready to be spent. Ever since looking up burst effects, this was the one I just had to have. His future's secured with LD board and buff, so pulling LD in burst now will give me more planning room down the line when he returns. I'll admit he's not a must-have by any means, but Sephiroth's niche is hard to turn down for me. Now, this is probably how I feel about it. I mean, I'm not gemming this, I'm really not. But I think that people who do will find reasons to use him, because his burst effect is very unique and it is very different, and if you pair him up with the right characters, it can actually be devastating. Gemakai says, as hype as the Smash reveal was and as cool as Sephiroth is, I made a plan and I'm going to stick to it. Something I should probably do myself. Sephiroth at the moment is just not worth pulling for me beyond the free pulls. When his rework comes around, then I'll go a little harder for him, but currently I have to make decisions and prep for the triple threat of Rude, Cloud and Beatrix, and Sephiroth at the moment just isn't worth going out of my way for. And I feel that a lot of people will feel this way. Certainly with Rude and Cloud, a lot of people are going to be saving their resources for them, and now is the best time for you to be doing so. ABC says skip to begin with. I want him when he gets his LD boards, but my Sephiroth is only 0 out of 3 and I'll only be pulling on Rude. I don't want to spend on Sephiroth right now, but if I were to get the burst during Rude, I might go back for the LD. But to be honest, I'm on the fence of whether I should purple him now or not. Again, a lot of people, like I said, pull for Rude. If you get the burst, you could go back for the LD. But honestly, if you didn't get Sephiroth, it wouldn't really impact you all that badly to begin with. Gabe Turner says, outside of the free pulls, no. I'm saving for Rude at the end of the month. Lightning depleted all my resources. I need time to save, which is a very good reason to skip any character. Technically, I should try for the LD in case Sephiroth's burst drops during my pulls for Rude, but I'm hoping that luck won't screw me over, i.e. pulling the burst and not Rude's LD. Again, people are going to go one or two ways when it comes to Rude. They're either hoping not to get the burst for Sephiroth so they don't have to go back and get the LD, or they're kind of in my position where you're secretly hoping you'll get it so that you have a reason to go back and get the LD. DJ Laws finally says, I am going to pull on this banner just because it's Sephiroth. My pulling strategy has always been for going after characters that I'm a fan of. Makes this game more fun for me. Plus, him being added to Smash Bros has me even more hyped for his burst and his LD. And this is an important thing as well. Now, all the advice that I give out to people when it comes to pulls, obviously it's all within the parameters of the game itself. If they're a character that you really love and you can't live without, then you should be pulling for them. But, you know, everyone's pulling strategies are different. So, honestly, just go with whatever you feel is best. But I think, by and large, Sephiroth is not a character that is going to get used all that much outside of the very near future, until, of course, he gets his LD boards and his rework. Whatever gift this is they have as planned for Smash, then who knows. But past that, I think that he's a safe skip unless you're a massive fan and you just want to play with his unique burst mechanics and the fact that he's Sephiroth. So that's going to be all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below whether you plan to pull for Sephiroth or not. And of course, thank you all to one of my patrons for voting within the Would You Pull section, and of course for your comments as well. It makes for a massively improved Should You Pull experience for the viewers, so that they can see that there are other opinions out there other than my own. So of course, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications on any future videos I might be making. And I will see you guys in the next video. So thank you very much once again, and I'll see you soon. Take care.